This Arab billionaire thought he could humiliate a black waitress in front of the world's most powerful investors. But what happened next will give you absolute chills. When she opened her mouth and spoke perfect Arabic, his jaw hit the floor so hard it could have cracked marble. By the end of this story, this arrogant billionaire would be on his knees begging for her forgiveness. But let me paint you the picture of how this incredible story unfolded. The Burj Al Arab in Dubai, the most exclusive hotel on earth. We're talking about crystal chandeliers worth more than entire houses, marble floors that cost a fortune to even touch, and a ballroom filled with the world's elite. Oil tycoons worth billions, tech moguls who own half of Silicon Valley, and investment sharks who can buy and sell countries with a phone call. This isn't just any business conference. This is the International Business Summit, where a single handshake can move mountains of money. And right in the middle of all this obscene wealth and power stood one woman who was about to turn this entire evening completely upside down. Her name was Maria Thompson, 26 years old, a black waitress from Detroit working this ultra-exclusive event. She moved gracefully between tables in her crisp white uniform, serving $300 cocktails to people who probably made more money while she poured their drinks than she'd make in an entire month. But here's what absolutely nobody in that glittering ballroom knew. Maria was hiding a secret so incredible, so mind-blowing, that when it was finally revealed, it would send shockwaves through every single person in that room. At the center of the ballroom, commanding attention like a king holding court, sat Khalid al-Rashid. This 42-year-old oil magnate was worth an astronomical $8 billion. His custom-tailored Armani suit cost more than most people's cars. His Patek Philippe watch? Don't even ask. It's worth more than Maria's apartment building. This man owned oil fields across 3 continents, had governments on speed dial, and could literally change the price of gas with a single decision. Right now, Khalid was in the middle of negotiating the biggest deal of his already legendary career. Sitting across from him was Hiroshi Tanaka, the CEO of Japan's largest renewable energy consortium. They were discussing a partnership worth $500 million that would bring clean energy technology to the Middle East. This wasn't just business, this was the kind of deal that makes history books. Maria had been watching this high-stakes negotiation unfold throughout the evening as she served drinks and appetizers. She'd refilled their glasses, brought fresh towels, cleared plates, all while staying invisible, just another piece of the background furniture that rich people never really notice. As the evening progressed, Maria approached their table one more time. She was carrying a silver tray with freshly squeezed orange juice. The premium stuff that cost $50 a glass, made from oranges that were probably blessed by monks or something equally ridiculous. She'd done this exact same thing hundreds, maybe thousands of times before. Pour the drink, smile politely, become invisible again. But sometimes fate has other plans. Sometimes the universe decides it's time to teach someone a lesson they'll never forget. Disaster strikes in the worst possible way. As Maria leaned across to refill Khalid's glass, her sleeve caught the edge of a water pitcher that another guest had moved slightly out of place. It was the smallest thing, maybe a tablespoon of orange juice splashed onto the pristine white cuff of Khalid's shirt, barely visible. Most people would have laughed it off, maybe even apologized for moving their glass. But not Khalid al-Rashid. The entire table went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop in that massive ballroom. Khalid's face slowly turned red, then purple with absolute rage. He shot up from his chair so violently that it flew backward and crashed into the table behind him. The sound echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot, and every conversation in the room stopped. And then, with the arrogance of someone who believes the world revolves around him, Khalid made a decision that would haunt him forever. Assuming that a black waitress from Detroit couldn't possibly understand Arabic, he decided to unleash his fury in his native language. In rapid, furious Arabic, Khalid screamed, "Innaha adimatul fa'idati tamaman." This stupid girl has no brain. She's completely worthless. But he wasn't done. Oh no, he was just getting started. هؤلاء الأشخاص الجاهلون جدا لا يستحقون التنفس في نفس الهواء الذي نتنفسه. These people are so ignorant. They don't deserve to breathe the same air as us. كيف تجرؤ على إفساد ملابسي الباهظة? She should be fired immediately. How dare she ruin my expensive clothes? The other businessmen at nearby tables started laughing. Some pulled out their phones to record what they thought was just another entitled billionaire having a meltdown. The Japanese investors looked uncomfortable but said nothing. They needed this deal too badly to risk offending their potential partner. Maria's face burned with humiliation as she quickly grabbed napkins from the table. Her hands were shaking as she tried to dab at the tiny stain on his cuff. She kept her eyes down, her voice barely above a whisper as she said, "I'm so sorry, sir. Please let me get that clean for you." But Khalid wasn't finished destroying her dignity. He continued his Arabic tirade. "La tafhamu hatta ma aqul." Look at this ignorant woman. She doesn't even understand what I'm saying. He turned to his fellow businessmen and switched to English. This is exactly what's wrong with hiring these people. No education, no class, no intelligence. The humiliation was complete. Maria stood there, napkin still in her trembling hands, as laughter rippled through the nearby tables. But what none of them knew, what not a single person in that ballroom could possibly have imagined, was that Maria understood every single word that had just poured out of Khalid's mouth. Every insult, every slur, every cruel assumption about who she was and what she was worth. You see, Maria Thompson wasn't just any waitress. She had graduated summa cum laude from Georgetown University with a double major in international relations and Middle Eastern studies. She spoke 5 languages fluently: English, Arabic, French, Spanish, and Japanese. She'd spent 2 years studying in Cairo and another year in Damascus before the war. Her thesis on Middle Eastern economic policy had been published in 3 academic journals. So why was this brilliant, highly educated woman serving drinks to people who treated her like furniture? The answer was both simple and heartbreaking. Maria's mother had been diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. The treatments weren't covered by insurance, and the medical bills were crushing their family. Despite her impressive credentials, Maria had taken this waitressing job because it paid cash tips that she could send home immediately. Every night after her shifts, she'd been quietly studying the business profiles of summit attendees, hoping to network and maybe find a better opportunity. But as she stood there being humiliated in 2 languages, something crystallized inside her. She made a decision that would change everything. The hotel manager, Mr. Peterson, had witnessed the entire scene. He rushed over, profusely apologizing to Khalid. "Sir, I'm so terribly sorry. We'll have your shirt cleaned immediately, and of course, we'll cover all costs." As for the staff member, he looked at Maria with disappointment. "She'll be dealt with appropriately." Khalid waved his hand dismissively. "Just get her away from me. Some people simply don't belong in civilized society." The comment drew more chuckles from his audience. Maria quietly excused herself and returned to her duties, but she remained close enough to observe the crucial business negotiation that resumed at Khalid's table. And what she saw made her realize that karma was about to deliver the most perfect revenge she could have ever imagined. Hiroshi Tanaka was getting increasingly frustrated. The official translator, a nervous man in his 50s who had been flown in specifically for this meeting, was clearly struggling. The technical terms, the cultural nuances, the specific legal language around renewable energy patents, something was getting lost in translation with every exchange. "I think there's been a significant misunderstanding," Tanaka said in heavily accented English, his frustration evident. "The terms you're proposing are completely different from what we discussed in our preliminary meetings." Khalid's confident smile began to falter. "I assure you, Mr. Tanaka, our terms haven't changed. Perhaps your translator can clarify?" The translator was sweating now, frantically flipping through his notes. He stammered in broken Arabic, clearly out of his depth with the complex business terminology. Tanaka shook his head vigorously. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. This is about intellectual property rights, not profit margins." The room began to buzz with whispers. Other investors at nearby tables started to notice the commotion. This was supposed to be Khalid's crowning achievement, a deal that would cement his reputation as a visionary businessman. Instead, it was crumbling before his eyes because of a translation failure. $500 million was slipping through his fingers, and there was nothing he could do about it. That's when Maria made her move. She approached the table quietly, her heart pounding, but her resolve absolute. "Excuse me," she said softly. Every head at the table turned toward her. Khalid's eyes flashed with renewed anger. "What are you doing here? I thought I made it clear that you should stay away from this table." But Maria didn't back down. Instead, she did something that sent shockwaves through the entire ballroom. In perfect, eloquent Arabic, the kind spoken by diplomats and scholars, she addressed Khalid directly. The effect was instantaneous and electric. Every conversation in the ballroom stopped. Khalid's mouth fell open so wide you could have caught flies in it. The other businessmen stared in complete shock. The Japanese investors looked up with sudden hope and amazement. Maria continued, now switching flawlessly between Arabic and Japanese. Tanaka-sen wa ita no wa, rieki bunpai no koto de wana kut, chitakazazen no kyoyu and itsut desu. Then back to Arabic for Khalid. السيد تاناكا يقول أن براءات الاختراع للطاقة المتجددة يجب أن تبقى مشتركة الملكية وليس منقولة بالكامل لشركتكم. Tanaka's face absolutely lit up with relief and excitement. Yes, exactly. That's precisely what I've been trying to explain for the last hour. He turned to his colleagues and spoke rapidly in Japanese, then back to Maria. You understand both languages perfectly. Can you please help us communicate properly? The entire ballroom was now watching this incredible scene unfold. The same woman who had been publicly humiliated just an hour earlier was now speaking multiple languages more fluently than anyone in the room, including the professional translator who was supposed to be handling this crucial negotiation. But Maria wasn't finished with the revelations. As she began facilitating the conversation between Khalid and Tanaka, her expertise became undeniably apparent. She didn't just translate words. She explained complex economic concepts, clarified cultural differences in business practices, and even suggested solutions to potential legal obstacles that neither side had considered. The intellectual property sharing model you're both discussing, Maria explained, is similar to what was successfully implemented in the Saudi-German Renewable Energy Partnership in 2019. However, there are specific UAE regulations that might require modifications to the patent licensing structure. Tanaka was amazed. Are you familiar with the Saudi-German deal? That's incredibly specific knowledge. Maria nodded calmly. I wrote my master's thesis on joint venture structures in Middle Eastern renewable energy partnerships. I analyzed 15 different international collaborations, including their legal frameworks and long-term sustainability. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Khalid looked like he was about to have a heart attack. This was the same woman he had called stupid, worthless, and ignorant just hours earlier. The same woman he had said doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as us. One of the German investors at a nearby table leaned over. Excuse me, miss, but did you say you have a master's degree in this field? Georgetown University, Maria replied. Double major in international relations and Middle Eastern studies. I also spent 3 years living and studying in the Middle East. Another investor chimed in. And you speak how many languages? 5 fluently, 3 conversationally. The questions kept coming, and with each answer, Khalid sank deeper into his chair. The woman he had publicly humiliated was not only more educated than most people in the room. She was arguably the most qualified person there to handle this exact type of international business negotiation. Tanaka was so impressed that he pulled Khalid aside. Mr. Al-Rashid, he said firmly, I want this woman as our official translator and cultural liaison for all future negotiations. Her expertise just saved our entire partnership. I assume she's a senior member of your team. Khalid's face went completely white. The woman he had treated like dirt wasn't just qualified. She was more qualified than his own advisors. And now his most important business partner was demanding to work with her. The Japanese delegation was equally impressed. Tanaka's deputy approached Maria directly. Miss Thompson, your knowledge of international energy law is remarkable. Are you currently employed in this sector? The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Maria looked directly at Khalid, then back at the Japanese investors. Actually, I'm currently working as a waitress to support my family while I search for opportunities in my field. You could have heard a pin drop. The most powerful people in the room, billionaires, CEOs, and international power brokers, all stared at this young woman who had just revealed that she was serving them drinks despite being more educated than most of them combined. Tanaka's expression hardened as he turned to look at Khalid. You mean to tell me that someone with her qualifications has been serving drinks at this conference? What kind of organization are you running? But the Japanese CEO wasn't done. He had witnessed Khalid's earlier outburst and was beginning to piece things together. Wait, you're the server who was at our table earlier when... His voice trailed off as the full implications hit him. The German investor who had been taking notes throughout the conversation suddenly spoke up. I saw what happened earlier. This gentleman, he pointed at Khalid, was shouting at this young lady in Arabic after she accidentally spilled a drop of juice. Another voice from across the room, I recorded part of it. He was saying some pretty harsh things in Arabic. Khalid realized that his carefully constructed reputation was crumbling in real time. Not only had he publicly humiliated someone who was more qualified than he was, but he had done it in front of potential business partners who were now questioning his character and judgment. Tanaka stood up slowly, his decision made. "Mr. Al-Rashid, I'm afraid we need to reconsider our partnership. The way you treat people, especially educated, qualified individuals, tells me everything I need to know about your character and your company's values." The $500 million deal was about to walk out the door, and Khalid knew it. But that wasn't even the worst part. Word was already spreading through the ballroom. Other investors were whispering. Phones were being pulled out, and Khalid could practically see his reputation evaporating before his eyes. That's when something remarkable happened. This proud, arrogant billionaire who believed the world revolved around him realized that he was facing a choice that would define the rest of his career and possibly his life. He could double down on his arrogance and lose everything, or he could do something that went against every fiber of his entitled personality. Khalid stood up slowly and walked across the ballroom to where Maria was standing. The entire room watched in complete silence as this man worth nearly $3 billion approached the woman he had humiliated just hours earlier. And then, in front of 200 of the world's most powerful business leaders, Khalid did something that will be talked about in business circles for years to come. He bowed his head and, in Arabic, said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "لقد اخترت خطأ فادحا وخجلت نفسي وبلدي." Then, switching to English so everyone could understand, "I sincerely apologize for my ignorance and disrespect. I made a terrible mistake and have shamed myself and my country. I judged you by your uniform instead of your character. I spoke words that were beneath my dignity and insulting to yours. You have shown more class, intelligence, and professionalism tonight than I have in years." The apology was so unexpected, so genuine, and so public that it stunned everyone in the room. But Maria's response was even more remarkable. She looked at this man who had tried to destroy her dignity and said, "Mr. Al-Rashid, I accept your apology. We all make mistakes when we let our assumptions guide us instead of taking the time to see people as they truly are." The grace with which she handled his apology, after everything he had put her through, impressed everyone even more than her linguistic abilities. But the night was far from over. Tanaka, who had been watching this exchange with great interest, made an announcement that would change Maria's life forever. "Miss Thompson," he said, "I would like to formally offer you a position as Director of International Relations and Cultural Affairs for our Renewable Energy Division. Your starting salary would be $180,000 per year, plus full benefits and relocation assistance if needed." The ballroom erupted in applause, but Tanaka wasn't finished. "Furthermore, your first project would be overseeing our Middle Eastern partnerships, including the development of sustainable energy solutions for underserved communities across 3 continents." But that wasn't the only offer Maria received that night. The German investor approached her with an opportunity to consult on European energy partnerships. A tech mogul from Silicon Valley wanted to discuss sustainable technology development. Even representatives from the World Bank were interested in her expertise for international development projects. Within 2 hours, Maria had gone from being publicly humiliated as a worthless waitress to having multiple 6-figure job offers from some of the most prestigious organizations in the world. As for Khalid, his public apology and Maria's gracious response actually enhanced his reputation in the long run. The Japanese partnership was salvaged, but with Maria as the official liaison, a condition that Tanaka insisted upon. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.